Yesodei HaTorah Perek Tes Halacha Dalet. Even if a Navi comes along and teach and wants to uproot something which is not written in the Torah, and we learned it that we have as a tradition from all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu. Or if he says regarding one law in the law of the Torah, that God commanded them, and the din is, this is the law. V'halach gidrei ploini, and the halach is like so and so. Harei ze navi sheker, he's considered a false navi, yichonik, and he has to be choked. Al bishu also ois. Even if he shows us a sign, and the case of Mishnah writes that the source of the Rambam is, since the Torah is eternal and the prophet cannot change something new. Chazal tell us if Yeshua Ben would come and say and you want to change something, since it was given, you don't listen to him. Therefore, Yeshua did not want to ask from the Shemayim the 3,000 halachas that were forgotten at the time of the morning of that Klal Yisrael was in mourning about regarding Moshe Rabbeinu, because Torah is live b'Shamayim. This is a Gemara in Tmura, Tes 16a, that even if Eliyahu will come and said that you do not take off a shoe by Yibum, you don't listen to him, as we mentioned above, because Torah is not in heaven. So the Gezra Mishnah asks, how could the halacha be like Beis Hillel in every place because of the Baskol? We just said it's not b'Shamayim. However, Toisus explained the Baskol didn't come to contradict the halacha, since Beis Hillel were the majority. But that doesn't seem to jive with what the logic of the Rambam is, and the words, the Gezra Mishnah remains with a question. More so on the question, we can point out why, by the Tanu of Achnoi, which is the oven that was broken into 3 parts and then put together with sand, and Eliezer was against it. The Acham didn't want to listen to the Baskol, to the heavenly voice that said that Allah was like a Eliezer. Why is Eliezer different than Beis Hillel? The answer to the Torah is the Baskol came only for the glory of Eliezer. That he said, may Hashem, Shemayim show that I am correct. And therefore it wasn't decided through him. Or the heavenly voice was against the majority. The Baskol of Beis Hillel, there it was according to the majority, and therefore the halacha would have been like them in any case. Rae Gann answers the question of the Gezra Mishnah, that they did not say the halacha is Beis Hillel according to the Baskol, only because they have a majority. That was why the halacha was so, and because they were agreeable with each other regarding the halacha. This is found in Eruvin 13b. Even though the Beis Shammai were sharper, the reason that the Baskol came out was only to honor Rabbi Eliezer, who said, let Shamayim prove that I am correct, and to show that Beis Hillel was correct, but certainly not to prove the halacha. And what Rav Nachman says, that we would not listen to Yeshua Ben Nun, it doesn't mean the intent. Even if he'll tell us to prophecy, we won't listen to him. But we will not agree to his logic that will tell us of his own volition, even though he's the greatest man of the generation after Moshe Rabbeinu. We have to point out that this explanation of Yeshua Ben Nun would contradict what Rambam writes in the beginning, the preface to the explanation on Mishnayos. The Rambam points out that one should not listen to a Novi who changes anything with the Torah. So even if it was Yeshua Ben Nun. The Chidor questions on the Pri Chodesh. In Eruvin 6b we find that before the Baskol came out to Beis Hillel, whoever wanted could do either according to the opinion of Beis Shammai or Beis Hillel. After it came out, you can only do according to Beis Hillel. So we see that the Baskol was the deciding factor Therefore, the Chidor explains that the intent of the Pri Chodesh is to say that the Baskol, the heavenly voice, revealed that you go according to that what it says in the Pasuk, you go according to the majority is according to numbers, and not whether it is you go according to the sharper group. Now, why don't you listen to him? He's coming to deny that which is said in the Torah that says the Torah is not in heaven. But for the moment, if it's just a temporary thing, you want to listen to him regarding everything. So Achronim, the later commentaries, aren't sure if the Navi can decide when we're not sure what is the actual situation. Like we don't know the number of milk falling into a pot. We don't know if it's 60 times as much. The Chidor writes that Rabbi Yaakov, who asked, questioned, and they answered it from the Shammai, from the heaven, all type of questions that we weren't sure and disagreements, and he went according to what they said from heaven. The Chidor questions, how could he have done so? Rambam Paskins, that a Novi says in the name that this is of Hashem, even that is the din, is a Novi Sheker, because it's not in heaven. Furthermore, the Chidor questions on the decision of the Rambam, like Rav Shimon in Yevomis 61a, that a dead non-Jew, it does not cause the defilement inside a tent like the dead Jew. And the Gezra Mishnah gives a reason. Why does he paskin like Rav Shimon Chai and not like the Chachamim? Because Rav is of the opinion, he accords with Rav Shimon Chai, because Eliyahu Novi would go into the basic forest of a goy, and he wasn't concerned about Tumas Mace. Eliyahu Novi was a Kohen because Pinchas is Eliyahu, and Pinchas was the son of the grandson of Aaron HaKohen. And Eliyahu would say that he agrees with Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, as we find about Metzia 1:14b. Therefore, the Rambam also makes the halacha like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. And the Chidor explains that the Rambam didn't rely on Eliyahu Novi as a Novi, but rather as one of the wise men. Also, some Sefer says that when Eliyahu shows himself to man in a physical being, he is just like any other wise man. If he can prove what he states, or he gives a reason for it, we believe him. However, there are those early commentaries or of the opinion that you do listen to Baskol to begin with, and if it doesn't come to negate something that's accepted, just they're not sure, we're only not sure about what the logic is, then we listen to the prophet or to the Baskol. So we see the Ravid writes in many places why the Halacha is in a certain way, because Ruach HaKodesh found itself in the base Medrash, and they said that's the Halacha. So we see it's a heavenly concept. So too, Rabbi Yaakov Chosid, perhaps in the heaven, he felt that since if there's no contradiction to what we have, we listen to the heaven, and we have to point out that the Ramban Nachmanides disagrees on the Ravid, and he says when the Ravid makes the decision according to Ruach HaKodesh. The Chidor gives us a unique, a novel approach to make a differentiation between places where we cannot make a decision, like Sanhedrin themselves disagreed, couldn't decide, and also in our times where the rabbis are all over the world, we're not together. It was in the time of the Tanoim and Amorim, and we can't decide the Halacha. Then we keep that which the Baskol says, or where the Ruach HaKodesh says that what he said, that tzaddik says is true. According to this logic, it could be that Rabbi Yaakov Chosid, who asked from Hashemayim, would agree with the Rambam, because something that you can decide in this world, that's not in heaven. But in our generations, that there's no way to decide, since we're spread out all over the world, we can therefore min hashamayim, however they tell us to do, would not contradict a accepted practice. The later commentary is also question if you can rely on heaven in things that are a question of what is it. Chazal in Yuma 75a discussed the posuk in Bamidbar 11:7, and that the mon was like Zera God, that the mon told that which was hidden in among the Jews. They weren't sure whose child it was, the first father or the second, where the divorced woman did not wait 3 months. So we would see where the mon fell, who collected enough money, a mon, for one more soul, because every person collected as many people as he had to provide for. The Kabbalah questions, how can you decide it from a heavenly sign? And the answer is that Moshe Paskin, according to the Halacha, and he relied on the mon to verify his words. So one should not go from the Halacha, even if Yeshua Manu will tell us otherwise, even though we weren't sure. As you see, do rely on this, that you don't rely on a sign from the heaven, even when it's a question of whose child it is. You rely on what the Chacham has said, because that heaven can agree with them. Now, too, when Klal Yisrael came up from Babel, and they had 3 Nevi'im, Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi, it says in Zvachim 62a, that one of them said where the Mizbeach was, one of them said where the place of the Mizbeach was, and one stated that even though there's no house, you can bring korbanos till the Beis HaMikdash was built. That this was the halacha before the Chorban. So even though they were prophets, and they could do it through prophecy, they didn't rely on that, only on what they saw. So you don't rely on a Navi, even question of where it was, except as a person who was a witness. From the other aspect, we find in Tosfos Yom Kippurim, there are proofs that when we're not sure, we rely on the prophet, just like we don't write tefillin on the skin of a fish, because it has the smell is too strong, until Eliyahu will come and say that you can't do so. And so too, if there's a question if one can have a meal and establish a meal on wine, the Gemara says when Eliyahu will come, we'll ask him if one may do so.